Hey guys, my name's Stephanie Rigg. I'm a relationship coach and host of the On Attachment podcast. And in this video, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about what causes an anxious attachment style to develop. So, of course, no two people are going to be the same, and any of these themes that we can observe and look at are always going to be generalizations. So it's not something where you need to try and find evidence of this in your own life if it doesn't fit. But that being said, this will be something that a lot of people will relate to when they hear it. So if you're someone with an anxious attachment pattern, the essence of your experience is, I really, really value and desire love and connection, but I don't trust in its reliability, right? That's really at the heart of anxious attachment. I want love, but when I get it, I fear that I'm going to lose it. And so I hold on really, really tight. And so when we look at what the typical origin story is for those with an anxious attachment style, some key themes emerge. And the number one thing that you'll see in different expressions, but tends to be there for a lot of people, is this idea of inconsistency. So as I said, there tends to be an overall positive impression of what it means to love and be loved for the anxiously attached child. And when we're talking about attachment, this is almost always, of course there will be exceptions, but almost always stuff that is developed and set in place very early on in life. It becomes our blueprint of what it means to love and be loved. And so for the anxiously attached person, there was enough love and support and connection in your family system that you came to have a positive association with that. You went, love feels good, connection feels good. It feels so good when we're close. But you didn't get that enough of the time or consistently enough to be able to trust that it was going to be there when you needed it, to be able to rely on the consistency of love and secure attachment such that you didn't need to feel any stress around it. And so the way that we tend to develop around that wound and in that environment is, okay, I'll try and hold you close because if you leave, I can't trust that you'll come back or when you'll come back. And so I have a reaction to that unpredictability or that perception of inconsistency or unavailability. And my response to that is to keep you close. And so we see the fear of abandonment that is at the heart of anxious attachment for a lot of people, irrespective of whether you had any literal abandonment. There's this perception of abandonment. It might be more emotional abandonment in the sense of when I'm in stress or fear, you're not going to be there for me. And that terrifies me. I don't trust myself to be able to support myself through that experience. And so I cling to you as my source of safety. And so while that makes a lot of sense in an infant caregiver environment, in those early relationships where we are, of course, entirely dependent on a caregiver, and it makes sense that that would feel viscerally unsafe and life-threatening to be not knowing whether and under what circumstances your caregiver was going to be available to you when you needed them, we can see how that traces through to adult romantic relationships, where for the anxiously attached person, their romantic partner tends to be their safety blanket. And so when you aren't with them or there's any sort of stress or tension in the relationship, you can feel it as extremely unsafe, panicked. What do I do? I'm not okay. I'm only okay to the extent that we are connected and you are happy with me and everything's fine in our relationship. Because as soon as there's any threat or any bump in the road, I start to spin out because I don't know how to feel safe on my own. Related to that, seeing this inconsistency pattern come up again, we tend to be very, very easily activated or triggered by the slightest perception of inconsistency in our relationships. Ironically, we tend to gravitate towards partners who can behave in ways that are inconsistent or intermittent, which is another video altogether. But going from connection to disconnection in relationships is likely to send you spiraling. So practically speaking, what does that look like? If your partner, you're spending time together and then their mood changes or they become slightly withdrawn, or you're texting someone and there's a certain rhythm to the texting and then there's a break and they don't respond, your attachment system is likely to very quickly ramp up and go into overdrive and tell you that there's something wrong and that you need to fix it very urgently, because any break in the connection, any semblance, slightest hint of inconsistency will trigger those very deep, very long-standing attachment wounds inside you. So all of that to say, if that's something that you struggle with, it makes perfect sense, as is true for all of our stuff. It's very rare that there's no explanation and we're just crazy. There's always something that makes sense in the context of you. And having that level of curiosity and self-compassion is a really, really important starting point for ultimately being able to reprogram, rewire, tend to these wounded parts, and offer ourselves the support that we need in order to cultivate a greater sense of security within ourselves and in our relationships. So I hope that this video has been helpful. Please like and subscribe. Check out my other videos. It's all a great help, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.